it was Xavier Lucas from Southern Florida. He had offers from Florida State and Miami was making a really late push for him. But he signed this morning, and he's a really strong addition to the class and probably going to be a nice corner for the Badgers, a position that really Luke Fickell has come in and prioritized, making the secondary bigger, longer, more athletic. So they've got nice pieces here. So far, so good today.
Awesome. So, Nick, of course, it would be easy just to go to the top of the board and say, well, these are the best players. Obviously, they're rated the highest. But I will leave it to your discretion in regards to just a few guys that you think, whether they have the top end ability and are development players that may pay off really in 2 or 3 years, as has been the Wisconsin way for a long, long time, or could make an immediate splash this fall.
Yeah, well, let's start with what we're looking at right now on the defensive line, because I really think Dylan Johnson, who is committed to play, he was formerly a Northwestern recruit under Pat Fitzgerald from Illinois, had committed to play there, and then as soon as all that stuff went down in Northwestern, he flipped his commitment to Wisconsin. He's also potentially going to wrestle this winter or next winter as well, so he will be a dual sport athlete. But I really think that he could find time early on a defensive line that really needs a lot of help. And Fickell has been exploring the transfer portal for additional defensive line depth. But I really think any one of it's him and then Ernest Wheeler again, who's supposed to commit here this afternoon at some point, and the rumors are that he's likely going to be a Wisconsin Badger, which would, either of those guys could end up playing on the defensive line. The other guy I'll probably point to, and really you could talk about Dylan Jones, but Darian Dupree really fits what Phil Longo wants to do. Darian Dupree is from Illinois as well, Mount Carmel. Absolute stud. And again, you see the comment right here below that Darian Dupree has the ability to do everything Phil Longo wants a running back to be able to do. He can run routes and catch the ball out of the backfield, and as well as line up in the slot. He's really a versatile player that I think is going to be a really key piece. Again, Badgers are now losing Braylon Allen. Ches Malusi still kind of a question mark for next year. Of course, he broke his leg against Purdue earlier this season. So I think any one of those running backs that the Badgers are bringing in could play. But I really think Darian Dupree is a sleeper in this class. Dylan Jones is another. Again, he's the highest ranked recruit according to 24/7. He's another guy who has a really good chance to play this year. His recruitment at the end, it sounded like Ohio State had gotten involved to try to push to make a run for him, and he didn't budge at all. So I think the running backs and the D line are going to have the best chance to play right away. And the rest of these guys might be more the developmental Fickell guys. We'll see them in 2 or 3 years type of deal.
Considering the season coming in at 7-5 could have been better, then it looked like it could have been worse. And the team rallied with a couple W's late there against Nebraska and Minnesota to salvage a winning season and get to a bowl game in a sizable matchup against LSU. They're kind of swinging up in pay grade, at least for this particular season, not talking all time, of course, but just talking about this LSU team, even though Jaden Daniels won't play in the ball game. And there's always speculation as to, okay, trying to size up these two teams. And then with the opt-outs, what is this going to look like? But how important is this game to Wisconsin, whether that is just a better look for 2023 or going forward?
There's so much still, in flux for the Badgers in this transition period. And I really think expectations, were high coming into this year just because you had Fickell come in and you brought in all these nice transfers and you thought maybe the transition would be a little smoother. Obviously that didn't happen. So the expectation for the bowl game, I think, is really to see some of these young guys that we haven't seen yet. And again, LSU definitely swinging up this year. I don't think the Badgers match up too favorably against them at this point. Braylon Allen's not playing. You got an offensive, or there's Tanner Bortolotti, who's the center for the Badgers, isn't playing. There's a couple of guys on defense who aren't playing, so they'll be without some of their guys too. The Badgers will be without some of their guys too, and So I mean, the expectation I think is to just see where we're at with things, and I don't think that the bowl game's overly important considering what happened this season, 7-5. Again, not where the Badgers wanted to be in the last year, the Big Ten West. So I think this is again. I think the last time we talked, Mark, we kind of briefly had chatted about what the expectations were moving forward for Luke Fickell, and I think we're kind of in a 2 to 3 year transition window right now, where it's never going to look very pretty, and or it's not going to look very pretty, and maybe they pull off an upset next year. You know, obviously they got a pretty tough schedule, um, but yeah, just for the bowl game purposes, I think we're just looking to kind of hang around and maybe see if we can make something happen. But who knows? Maybe something happened during bowl prep that all of a sudden now their offense isn't quite as inept as they were during the season.
Nick, I've got to ask you about Tyler Van Dyke
Yeah,
because he's a big name across college football. And I've been watching him for a long time. He had a stretch of games, 8 games, I believe, in 2021, where 350 every week, 3 or 4 touchdown passes against some of the better defenses in the ACC. And he looked like he was setting himself up as a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Injury issues in 22. Then he comes back in 23. And at the beginning of the year, he looked like he just, boom, picked up where he left off in 21, had a remarkable game against one of the most talented defenses in college football, Texas A&M. But the last 5, 6, 7 games of the year, he was just a turnover machine. A lot of people don't think he can really is advanced in reading defenses and gets fooled a lot. Your thoughts about the quarterback edition?
I've been tricked a lot on quarterbacks as a Wisconsin football fan. And it goes back a long ways since Russell Wilson. Really, Russell Wilson was the top. Will always be the top quarterback to have ever played as a Badger, at least at this point. I can't imagine it changing. And then they went to Danny O'Brien, and he was also another transfer portal guy or graduate
Yep.
transfer guy who did not do well at Wisconsin. Tanner McAvoy, who ended up playing safety for the Badgers at the end of it, when it was all said and done. And then you went to Joel Stave, who was not real good. Alex Hornibrook, Bart Houston, uh, Jack Cohn was probably the last good quarterback the Badgers really had because, quite frankly, Graham Mertz underperformed where Jack Cohn was every year, and obviously Graham Mertz moved on to Florida. So and then you had Tanner Mordecai this year, who I thought was going to be a ton better. So I feel like
Yep.
as Badger fans in general are just kind of weary of quarterbacks, and then you kind of hear some of the stuff that went on at Miami, and you're not really sure. Like again, this guy isn't coming in with the same pedigree he had 2 years ago. What Badger fans know about him is that he, again, was a turnover machine at the end of the year, and that he had at one point been benched for a freshman and then came back in at the end of the year and finished the year a little stronger than he had, the middle of his year. But I don't know what the expectation is because Phil Longo has typically had a somewhat mobile quarterback, and this, I don't think Tyler Van Dyke really fits that mold at all. And if Tyler Van Dyke's going to be effective in the Phil Longo offense, the skill position players are going to have to be significantly better than they were this year, which is where the Badgers really were struggling. I don't think it was like a Mordecai problem. I think it was that Wisconsin didn't have the right players to play in the system. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure that Tyler Van Dyke is a nice player. I don't think Badger fans are getting their hopes up too high for too many significant changes. But hey, maybe this is the year that we're a little surprised that things go a little bit better because the quarterback position has been a little bit of a pain in the butt for Wisconsin fans for a long time.
Absolutely. You can catch Nick Snow's work, Bucky's Fifth Quarter, college football on SB Nation. You can see the Twitter/X handle there where you can follow Nick at BIG, as in Big Ten BIG _Nick.